When you want to be the best, you can't settle for the rest. For anything on iRacing, there's just one name you need: Maconi.
With the launch of Maconi Entertainment and Maconi Competizone alongside Maconi Setup Shop, we now provide the best of the best in setups, paint schemes, coaching, broadcasting, and event organization.
With cars across all 4 license classes, we have what you need to hit the track with confidence. Grab a subscription and save money while going fast at MaconiSetupShop.com/subscriptions.
And remember, at Maconi Setup Shop, there are setups, but your victories.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Tonight, we are glad to have you with us once again. Hello once more for Touring Kart Challenge League action. This is Season 2 of this league. Drivers are more excited than ever to hit the racetrack. This evening we're excited to bring you coverage of all the action from iRacing's virtual Darlington Speedway and in Darlington, South Carolina. Maconi Entertainment is here to bring you action from all types of racing with the weekly Fast Fridays series. No matter what you're racing, we can bring the action to life. My name's Justin Prince. Alongside the booth tonight is Shane Mundy. Christian Hill is working the controls as a producer here from Darlington. Before we get into the details for tonight, let's talk about the presenting sponsors of this series for the Touring Kart Championship, including Extreme Zone. Delighted to offer thrill seekers several different outlets for high adrenaline fun. Whether you put pedal to the metal on their quarter-mile track with 9 turns, speeds up to 40 miles an hour, or you prefer the virtual version with any sports car of your choice on hundreds of different tracks, you and your party will have a blast. Looking for a new challenge? Toss an axe or go to the new range. A variety of digitally projected targets, zombies to tic-tac-toe. Endurance karting. Pro Cup karting and endurance karting were founded in 2001 in separate states, but both share the vision of karting, fun karting from all levels of drivers without the extreme costs or exhausting work associated with participating in motorsports. Gone are the weeks of preparation and travel hauling only to have your race end before the checker flag dropped. In 2013, Pro Cup and endurance karting combined to provide the ultimate experience in arrive and drive karting. And by Red Mist Podcast. Welcome to the Most Sports Podcast, where you discuss F1, IndyCar, IMSA, NASCAR, our own racing adventures, and some other adventures. Once again, getting all set to go from Darlington here, Shane. What do you expect to see tonight for the place they call Too Tough to Tame?
Well, it's called that for a very good reason. This place is very tough to master. One of my favorite parts about this racetrack is watching how everybody approaches corner exit, especially off turn 2. That's going to be kind of a problem area because both ends of this racetrack are pretty different. You've got the more kind of narrow, longer turns 1 and 2, and the shorter but a little bit wider 3 and 4. But there's still not a ton of room through there. So there you see the track info on your screen. 25 degrees of banking in 1 and 2, 23 down 3 and 4, and you kind of see how it's kind of a bit of a egg shape, sort of, in a way, opened back in 1950. And it's given us some great finishes in both real life and sim racing over the years. And we all know about the Darlington stripe as well. So we'll see who can keep their car the cleanest, because it doesn't matter how fast you are at any track, especially this one, if you can't keep the fenders on it.
And tonight as well, mind you, brings us to the middle portion of this round of the playoffs too. Darlington's the middle portion of the inaugural, or the opening round, should say, of the postseason. Atlanta next week, keep in mind, as the cutoff race. And last time out at the Brickyard, we've seen some dominating performance speed, at least from one Zane Zadie. And in the end, things took a bit of a shuffle as a result. Here's a look at the standings. Zadie and Wembley first and second. Haas in third, coming in on point tallies. Hawthorne, Devine, Kauser, De Silva, and Aguilar of the drivers above the cut line entering tonight. Last time out, remember, it was Zadie who picked up the victory after leading 50 laps of the 80 in dominating fashion. And so it's going to be an interesting one to see now who's going to be able to keep up with the pace set by Zane, at least from the Brickyard, and who carries over momentum from Darlington.
I'll tell you who could definitely get a big advantage tonight is Colin Grace. Is Kevin Aguilar, the car on the bubble right now, or the last car in, I suppose, of that next round of the playoffs, is not in our lineup tonight. I don't believe Colin Grace is here, so he could really gain a lot on that. And he's only 1 point behind as is, so really he just needs to take the green flag, and he'll be in way better shape than he is right now. No Zadie tonight either, but we do see 7 Hawthorne there in fourth. Currently very fast here in qualifying, but we'll get to that in a moment. And we know 7's been so fast all year, so wouldn't be too shocked if maybe he's the next to punch his ticket.
Indeed, we're still a few minutes away before we get to the ninth start of the action here. Still 3 drivers yet to take qualifying times. 1 driver yet to make it to the facility at the very least. But this is a throwback night as well to keep in mind. So some of the drivers have taken the liberty, being able to throw back to various stars for the NASCAR scene, like Jimmy Johnson in the case of the 48 of Jacob Meager, and others throwing back to family members here tonight, a chance to look back at different paint schemes.
Yeah, I mean, throwback weekend of any kind in any series, any league, virtual or real, is always really cool to see what some guys run, but especially more so to me in the sim racing factor of things. You never know what a paint scheme might mean to someone. I mean, you see Meager here in the 48. I think they called this the White Lightning car back in 2013. They ran it for the majority of 2014 before switching back to the kind of inverse version of this paint scheme. I know when Darlington came around earlier this year in May, I ran a Sterling Marlin Coors, the silver bullet throwback on my car. So throwback weekend is always just super cool to see what some of these cars mean, especially like you said, some of these guys running paint schemes to family members, that may have raced at local short tracks, things like that. Pretty special.
Talk about that storyline in terms of one of the throwback approaches here later on this evening. Jacob, by the way, did not set an official time, because here's the thing. These walls can grab you, and if you touch the walls in qualifying, it invalidates your lap.
Yeah, and that is such a pain, but I mean, it's just here we go, losing it on the front stretch. But like I said, either way, it's not going to matter. He did not, even if you just brush it, iRacing uses the incident point system. Even if you just were to brush it, get a 0 X out of that, 0 incident points out of that, it's still going to invalidate your lap. And it's always so frustrating because you could be on such a heater and just lightly brush the wall or something off turn 4, and there goes your whole qualifying run. So now he's got his work even more cut out for him due to this.
So Shane, as we prepare for tonight, less than 90 seconds away from the starting grid, what are some of the things you're keeping an eye on from a track like Darlington tonight?
Well, keep it off the wall. We just talked about that for qualifying, as well as we mentioned the Darlington stripe, so infamous. it kind of just sucks you in, this wall. I mean, you'll be going through the middle of the corner, especially, and it's almost like there's like a magnet in the wall. It's going to pull you in, and once you hit it, it's sometimes kind of hard to get off of it. We know how the next gen is with, brushing the wall, and it can knock some of the steering out of the car. So keeping your car clean, I think, is going to be the main key to victory here. But another thing is your tires. This place can be pretty brutal to tires. Maybe a little more so in cars like the truck, or maybe especially the Xfinity car. But regardless, you guys might have a tough time managing tires, keeping it off the fence. So there's a few factors that are going to go into it, but overall, I think it's going to be keeping it clean.
Just a few moments away from tonight. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be an interesting night, to say the very least. Again, happy to have you with us for tonight's coverage as we prepare for tonight's festivities here from iRacing's virtual Darlington Raceway, here for TKC action.
And we're just a moment away from pulling up the starting grid on your screen. Got 8 guys, I believe, that will come up across our screen. Let's take a look at where they're starting here.
Indeed, they are now making their way to the starting grid procedures for tonight. And 7 Hawthorne makes a return tonight. He'll start on the pole. Ewan Kowser should say, will start in second, one of the throwback schemes. Matt Haas starts in third. Daniel Selway, a big talking point for his scheme tonight. He'll start 4th. Brendan Devine starts 5th. Alex Wiggins was initially supposed to start 6th, but he is currently not at the racetrack. Jacob Meeker, in turn, will move up a bit of a spot. Same Colin Grace. Grace will be your last starter for tonight that's in session. So let's take a look at your Maconi Setup Shop race analysis. Again, Maconi Setup Shop, the official setup shop of eNASCAR. And tonight's race distance, just 74 laps. 1 faster pair if necessary, 3 green white checkers if necessary, 50% fuel limit. So at the very least, drivers will have to make a pit stop. Possibly 2, we'll see, Shane.
It might be a little tight on that second one, but we saw how much strategy came into play at Indianapolis last week, Justin, where we weren't so sure if some of those guys were going to make it to the end on fuel. Some of them didn't, and some of them did. That fast repair will definitely be a topic of conversation at some point, as you see we're on board with 7 Hawthorne here in kind of Kyle Busch M&M's-esque paint scheme. Maybe not a throwback per se, but always cool to see those colors on the racetrack regardless. Alex Wiggins, that you mentioned, was originally slated to start in the 6th position. He is still in a Michael Waltrip fashion at the wrong track, so not on the starting grid. If he does come in, I would assume they'll start it from pit road, but that's going to move Meager and Grace up a position.
On that note, it's time to get us started here from Darlington. Happy to have you with us here for TKC from the place they call Too Tough to Tame. Green flag is out. We're underway from Darlington.
Pretty good jump there by Kowser on the outside. Sometimes the outside can be a bit of a preferred lane, but it's going to be tight there in 1 and 2. I think Hawthorne will be able to get clear off 2, and he does. So far, everybody's singled out, and we're all clean and green down the backstretch.
And remember, 7 Hawthorne, whenever he's made starts, a part of his 4 wins, has been very strong on these mile and a halves this season. He's going to be extremely difficult to be able to beat tonight. He leads the first lap of the 74.
Yeah, him and this racetrack could share a nickname, Too Tough to Tame. He's had a phenomenal season. I mean, you can just go back and look at the results, all the wins that he's been able to rack up. Came close, especially at Pocono just a couple weeks ago. Unfortunately, got passed late in the running on that one, so maybe looking for some redemption here is Matt Haas in the 8 car, taking a bit of a peek there to the inside of Kowser for second.
Kowser holds on for the time being, able to build up the run high side. Still playing good defense here. Now Kowser is one of the throwback schemes tonight. 2 different drivers, Kowser and Selway, are throwing back to the Selway family. Daniel Selway's father. In the case of Kowser, he's throwing back to one of the cars from the 2000s that the Elder Selway ran with the Outlaw Super Late Model Series.
Yeah, it's and I have a picture of the car up to my left here, and it's a sharp ride, so like I mentioned earlier, it's really cool to watch these guys be able to throw back to family. Also, in my opinion, really cool to see sometimes how they can incorporate, a different body style from a different era onto this so different NASCAR next gen race car. So pretty cool story there for those guys. Grace, we'll get to him in a bit there, but those teammates so far giving them a good run for the Grace guys. 2nd and 4th right now for Cowser and Colin Grace.
It's in the case of Selway for that. There's Grace, who has now switched over to a different paint scheme for the rest of the session. This is his intended throwback for the race, going back to the 2016 championship season.
Yeah, Jimmy Johnson, we all remember the historic call that Rick Allen made back in 2016, make room, Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt. We got another 7-time champion, and those of us that grew up watching Jimmy, and especially in his dominant era, I mean, you could definitely have times where you hate him, but you have to respect what he was able to do, winning all those championships in so many different championship formats. I mean, Final Four, the chase, multiple different versions of the chase. It's a pretty sharp car, especially with those kind of iconic, honestly, yellow numbers on Jimmy's cars that he had. They brought that back for the playoffs that year, and sure worked out pretty well for him.
And looks fairly slick on the race car tonight, although he did bounce off the wall. Grace did just now. That's going to add a little bit of damage to the door at the very least, and to the front end of the number 27. And he's losing ground pretty quickly to Matt Haas, who seems pretty comfortable in that 3rd position as they continue to fight it out for 4th and 5th.
Yeah, so far, it doesn't look like the damage will hurt Grace too much. He actually just returned the fastest lap of the session there. And I don't see any fender separation after he got the fence, but so far, still smooth sailing for Hawthorne up front. We're on board with Haas here. You can kind of take a look. This is sort of what the drivers are seeing, and just, how interesting of a line these guys will take. See, he'll probably shift up maybe to 5th. Yep, he's going to go up to 5th. Doubt he'll shift, or he downshifts anyway. Maybe I don't remember how to drive this place, Justin, but he's going to get up against the wall, arc it down, and didn't really see it much that time, but that's the corner oftentimes. You'll see these guys just dead sideways coming off turn 2. This is a great shot, especially if they were up against the wall, but honestly, this is a greater shot of Hawthorne. Oh, who's going to get sideways and into the wall, I believe?
A big bobble. Cowser having some troubles. Same exact thing being talked about on the radio. Grace in the wall as well. That can happen a lot, and now Cowser's going to have a problem. He's got damage on the right front.
Yeah, my apologies. That was Cowser, not Haas, that got sideways there and got up into the fence. I believe it was, like you said, Colin Grace got on the radio tight between those two guys on your screen there that came on the radio and mentioned that I just did the exact same thing. And I feel like maybe we've talked about it on a few broadcasts before, that sometimes you can kind of base what you're doing on the guy in front of you, 27, still bouncing off the fence. But both of them have pretty similar damage to the right front of those Camaros, where there's a bit of fender separation, maybe some steering damage as well.
At the very least, though, the raw pace of Cowser and his ability to run the racetrack on the bottom side of the track able to propel him a spot for now. They're now twinsies. In fact, Grace is with Cowser on the damage. They're both going to have similar circumstances the rest of the way here. Up front, it's getting interesting a little bit because Haas is starting to reel back in your leader.
It's kind of... Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, I was about to say, Haas has found a little bit more speed compared to Hawthorne now for this start of mid-run.
Yeah, I was going to say, Hawthorne, it's hard to tell maybe if he's backed it up a little bit, doesn't want to abuse his car, maybe saw those guys with trouble behind him. Still managing a fairly good gap here. I mean, it's about 7/10 of a second as we go down the straightaway into turn 3. But Kowser and Grace are just gone. I mean, those two were, you basically had nearly a blanket under the top 4, but look at the gap now. I mean, it's about over 2.5 seconds from second to third.
We'll see how things play the long run. Hawthorne just scraped the wall, by the way, so that's going to hurt his time on the racetrack for the time being. And we already know over the Series 7 has been extremely difficult to pass in terms of he's been one of those down in long run. He's not going to be easy to stop here tonight with the clean air from the get-go. Already Haas is scraping the walls in dirty air.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing is Haas had honestly really closed the gap there for a moment, down to maybe about 3-4 tenths. As soon as he got behind the 18, just closer, I guess, it plows. It's so tough. I mean, you mentioned 7's already tough to get by, probably in any kind of race car, but especially one where passing is difficult regardless of who it is in front of you.
You can see the temperatures, by the way, towards the cooler end of what you normally would see here at Darlington. Not that hot, not blistering hot to cause sliding and tire issues, but it is a later evening start. 2 times the speed in the skybox, by the way. So every 2 seconds, or every 1 second, 2 seconds in sim has passed essentially a little bit quicker on the clock.
Yeah, it's about 6:20 p.m. in sim time at the moment. So these guys are, going to be running into the latter hours of the day, so that track temp will probably drop even more. Definitely probably on the more relieving end of things to not have to deal with a scorching hot Darlington. But still, it's a tough track regardless of track temp. But 7 mastering it so far and pulled away from Matt Haas in that 8 as it's almost 2 seconds.
About a quarter distance through the race right now in this one. I mentioned the family members with Selways. Daniel Selway is a lap down right now. He had issues on the opening lap that forced him to take the repairs. He's the man we talked about when it comes to throwbacks. He is running mainly the first throwback revealed. Oh, he's in the wall again. And able to avoid a crunch to the right front this time. Was about to say he built this car paint scheme based off his dad's own car through DL Design. So he's throwing back to the paint schemes from the 80s rather than the 2000s, as we've seen with Hewing.
Yeah, and we were talking about how these guys are throwing back to some family. This kind of late model car is pretty sweet looking. Obviously trying to keep it off the fence there. It's a challenge at this track. Obviously it's just meaningful, I'm sure, regardless, to get to drive this race car, this paint scheme. And most of these guys, like you said, they're going with some cars from NASCAR and its 2000s kind of era. And we got these two guys out here with Kowser and Selway running some pretty meaningful cars from their family.
Still, the battles are on between the Jimmy Johnson cars in particular. Grace and Meeker. Right now you see the difference. Grace not able to rotate. The 48 behind able to rotate, get alongside for the pass.
Yeah, I think that Grace is definitely feeling the effects of that damage on the right front fender of his Lowe's Chevrolet. The blue and silver 27, the white and blue 48 to his inside. Honestly, has kept that race car pretty clean. Not any scratches on it other than, just the normal dirt and rubber buildup that we see these cars gain as the night goes on. But Meager, he's up a spot from where he started, but if he continues to keep that 48 car clean, who's to say where he could end up? I mean, look how much faster he was able to drive it into 3 and 4 in the center of the corner. You saw how much time he gained. It's honestly kind of impressive how well he's working Grace here in the dirty air behind him.
Yeah, I'm surprised how well Grace has been doing too, despite the damage. He did mention, oh, he's in the wall again.
That was a pretty decent hit as well.
I'm surprised he hasn't broken the right front tire off yet.
Yeah, I definitely can't imagine that even if there's no steering damage, you know, you take some pretty decent tire wear when you're getting into that wall as well. So I feel like he's bound to be feeling the effects of all this contact somewhat. And honestly, Meager kind of paying the price for it as he's in the wall again ahead of him. It's so hard to get by him. I mean, look at how there's not really any room. There's not really a good passing opportunity at many points of this racetrack. You see just how narrow the corners are, and you don't want to go below those dotted white lines that you see right here, at least not too much, because you'll just lose the rear end and just go around. So not a lot of options, but he's going to get under him here into turn 1.
He is trying to shift. He's shifting into the wall now. Nearly turns himself. That is getting a little bit too dangerous in that fight.
Yeah, I mean, they're so... I don't blame Jacob Meager, the 48. I don't blame him too much for kind of losing some patience. He's so much blatantly faster than Grace. Grace is just doing all he can to hold on to track position. It's honestly just how much longer will Jacob be patient with him? Because, I mean, it's gotten obvious these last few laps. The intensity's kind of ramped up. The patience is starting to run kind of thin here. As the 27 is going to bounce on, this might be the opportunity that Jacob's been looking for.
A side draft, and yet again, Grace quicker in. Meager has the better rotation, though, able to make the pass and keep it in front this time. Big difference is the 48 had not been shifting to the gears, while the 27 has been. And normally, at least on the open side in this car, shifting helps.
Yeah, I definitely am kind of surprised the 48 isn't shifting, especially kind of later into a run when maybe it's a little harder to rotate in the corners. So for him to be able to rotate as well as he was to get by the 27 there in 3 and 4 and to not have shifted, kind of an impressive feat in itself. But right now, I'll tell you one thing. When he was behind the 27 of Grace, and this isn't necessarily all dirty air, some of this is just, of course, running behind a slower car. I mean, he's almost about 6-7 tenths faster since getting away from the 27 car, and that was just one lap of it. So, oh, he's going to brush the wall a little bit there. Not enough to cause any damage. Up front, it's still 7 Hawthorne by 8.2 over Haas, who's got some company looking for that second position, Justin.
Pressurizing now is the 91, and there goes Haas into the wall. That's going to be a hard lick for the 8, and now he's got significant right side damage with that slap. Here comes Kowser to the inside, and the 8's tires are gone.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy at this point. Easier to tell you who doesn't have that kind of right front damage where the fender with the right front fender with the Goodyear lettering on it is separated from the front bumper. He is just plowing. It's like you said, that the tires are gone on this Camry. I can't believe that we haven't seen anybody pit yet. I will say, though, I'm not 100% sure on what the fuel run is. You mentioned how it's about 50% of the norm. But even so, I'm still kind of surprised nobody has just kind of been like, all right, I can't take this anymore. I've got to get an advantage of some kind with some fresh rubber.
And things are continuing to come unraveled. It looks like Matt is going to say, I've got to come down. Matt Haas going to be risking it a bit on gas here. Has decided, I've got to come in, and hits the barrels for it.
Oh my goodness. This is something that honestly I wish I had touched on before the show began. This is a tough pit road to get on under green. I mean, it is really hard to dive down, and you can't always really see the pit entrance until, obviously, like Matt Haas found out, kind of sneaks up on you, those barrels. Let's take a look here. So he's going to start diving down into 3. He's going to get down onto the flat, and he should have been turning left way earlier. And see, there's the wall, And honestly, he might have just been carrying too much speed, Justin, at that point. I think he could have made it if he had been going a little slower. He might have got a speeding penalty regardless.
He avoided the speed penalty, we can tell you that, but he did get the fast repair. That's the bright side. At least he made it onto pit road at somewhat of a drivable state.
Oh, yeah, that's a brutal hit. I'm telling you, if there was no fast repair, that's done for the day right there. He would not be back on the racetrack tonight. Obviously, though, it did hinder him in some way. With that damage, obviously he probably was not able to go as fast to his pit box as he would have liked to, because it was, I mean, you saw the right front tire. It was completely to the left. So probably lost even more time. You talked about how he was taking a gamble on gas. So, I mean, this could be interesting to see how it fans out, but he has lost a lap during that stop. I mean, our leader, 7 Hawthorne's going into turn 1 right now.
Yeah, we'll see how long he's able to make it now on the mileage. Might be in a spot close to having to come down soon by the checker flag. Hearing some of the other drivers are considering stops coming up here. So what's the question? Who blinks next on the racetrack? 7 Hawthorne is leading on it by 12 seconds.
Oh, we got trouble in turn 4. Colin Grace, I believe, unless he's just slowing down to make pit road. Oh, no, he missed it.
I think he completely misjudged the entry. He just tried to pit from the banking in turns 3 and 4.
Yeah, he did not make, he should have turned down way earlier. Haas might have hit the barrels, but he should, oh my goodness. But he at least, you know, I mean, this is just too late. I mean, he was way past the cone. I mean, honestly, I think even if he had turned in right there, that would have been an unsafe entrance, no?
Yeah. You can't cross that yellow line or else it's an unsafe pit entry. And so, a way late entry. Hearing the 91 also just had a penalty from his pit entry, possibly.
Yeah, that's Kauser, and I mean, we got basically everybody else that is seeing pit road right now except one car. Or no, they are now on pit road as well. It's Meager, who is currently the leader. Everybody else, it's a busy place on pit road right now. So there's Kauser. I believe he did have to serve a penalty. Let's see.
Yeah, there it is right there. He's stuck in the box.
Yeah, so that's unfortunate. I mean, we just saw so many examples of why this pit road is difficult to get on. You can carry too much speed and drive it into the barrels. You can try to make pit road too early and miss it. And you can easily speed as well. So tricky pit road at the track, too tough to tame.
So the pit cycle completing here as the rest of the drivers finish up their service, including Grace and Meeker this time around. 7 Hawthorne still holding on to the net lead here. Now here's the big thing on the mileage now. That was for everybody about 36, 37 laps. If you do your calculating, well, it's not going to get exactly to 74, is it? 72 to 74 is now the range. So, we might have a fuel mileage race to end it for everybody who just pit on lap 36 to 37.
Yeah, we know that Matt Haas will probably almost definitely not be able to make it. He is in the second position right now, but he was pit about 5 laps before anybody else. But we did see it at Indianapolis last week. We thought a lot of guys, or more than we thought, would run out of fuel. Didn't end up running out of fuel. So, I mean, these guys have shown that maybe they know how to push the limits of that fuel tank and get all the Sunoco fuel they can out of these cars. But it's going to be tougher here than Indy, in my opinion. It's kind of harder to find points to stay off the throttle. I mean, these are laps that are almost just about in half of what you could run at Indianapolis. Takes about 55 some seconds to get around there. These guys are making pretty consistent 29-second, 30-second laps around Darlington, so not as easy to save fuel at this racetrack.
Now, the interesting thing is Seven's amongst the non-shifter group who's been able to do this despite that. That's going to help him a bit on the mileage because you're not using as much the high RPM like you would be in fourth. He's actually backing up his corners a lot this run to start.
Yeah, if you take a look at his lap times as well, way off from just about everybody else. Jacob Meager is in the 48. He is currently in the 3rd position. Just ran the fastest lap of the race a moment ago with about a 29.47 rounding up. Or now Colin Grace sets it with a 29.38. But 7 Hawthorne is running 30.4s. Matt Haas, the guy in 2nd, who is worse on gas by a lot over 7, was almost a second faster than him that lap. So that kind of shows the priorities that 7 is taking to maybe ensure that he could get to the end of this race with just the 1 pit stop.
Yeah, now this is going to be the intriguing part of the race. The calm part, if you will actually, because there's still 30 plus laps to go, and all the positions have spread apart significantly. There is one more throwback tonight that's on the lead lap. You're looking at for a moment the 57's the tail on the lead lap right now, and is throwing back tonight to one Martin Truex Jr. as well. In terms of your throwbacks, again, on the racetrack. So, touch upon that a little bit more once in focus with the 57. But looking at the 48, seems to be very comfortable. Grace has fallen apart because of his pit miscue.
Yeah, we saw just how much that was probably going to affect him with all that. But, I mean, he's back to the 5th spot. He was battling with the 48. It's just not going to work out for him. Matt Haas will probably not net very well either, as, you know, he was the one that we saw just nail the pit road barriers, pit way earlier than anybody else. But he continues to kind of lose time to the 3rd place guy. He is gaining on 7, but I wouldn't read into that a whole lot because 7, we mentioned, is likely saving. His lap times are kind of obviously backed up from what we know he could be running at full pace. He pit 5 laps later than Haas, so Haas is definitely in a position where he's going to have to make a tough decision at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah, Matt's going to be the one in the worst situation because with his strat, he's possibly in the mix for an extra pit stop, right? As you said.
Yeah, I definitely would say so.
What do you think's going through his mind right now with how it's going? Because he is faster on older tires right now. But this was the same thing that happened last time before 7 just took off on long run pace.
Yeah, I mean, I think 7 is just, he masterfully ran that first run. I mean, we saw him kind of take things a little easier, and then, like I said, he just blasted away from everybody. And the gap that he was able to get himself, even over the 8 car here that is pitted earlier, not to mention how far ahead he is from 3rd place, which is about 14.5 seconds at the moment. So for Haas, I don't know. I mean, I feel like I would maybe run it as long as I was comfortable doing. Hope that I don't, see as much signs of tire wear as earlier. I mean, we saw him basically, right on cue, knocking down the wall. A little trouble there in 1 and 2. I think there's no damage this time. Still struggling a little bit, but all in all, would push it as far as I can, get fresh tires, and see who maybe I can leapfrog on this 2-stop strategy. And, keeping as much pace as he can with the leader will obviously help that.
So, we still have plenty of time to work with on the racetrack. At this point, what's going through the rest of these drivers' minds knowing how spread apart it is and now it's become almost like a relaxing Sunday drive outside of Matt hitting the wall?
Yeah, I can't help but notice as well that everybody that we saw with that right front fender damage and the nose damage on the right front, it's all gone. So anybody that had that damage used their fast repair already, and that's something that you could kind of keep an eye on. I mean, maybe a little early, or do you think that maybe that damage was worse than it looked to us up here?
I mean, any damage to this race car, like even the 12.5 variety, that could put you down on horsepower for the rest of the race.
It's definitely not optimal, but we'll see. As we're looking at Hewling Kowser here in the 91, I think he might have just got that damage back. So right on cue, I suppose. Net 4 spots lost right now. You know, he started up in our runner-up position, and things have just kind of gone from bad to worse. Right in the wake right now of Grace, as you see that sun beaming down on these guys into the entry of turn 3, and especially depending on the graphics card and that PC, that can actually kind of affect your visibility here at Darlington. Just like we see the guys in real life, we see some of those guys put their hand above their face where they can try and see as well as they can. Look at this off turn 2.
This is for position 2, by the way, albeit a lap down. So there's a chance that Kowser can get something working, or he can stuff the car into the wall again. That's going to cost him time by exit.
Yeah, he's definitely struggling. Honestly, Grace is starting to struggle a little bit as well, just rim riding that wall off turn 4, both of them. I haven't seen Grace make as much contact with the fence as maybe Kowser has, but nonetheless, Grace starting to gap him again as well. Kowser had ran him down, and this is an important position. You know, we talked about how this is race to the playoffs. He's just driving it in so hard in a turn 3. Maybe needs to back up those corners a little bit.
Yeah, a lot of it with how he's been just watch, lunge. Good point on the throttle this time, but watch. Too early on throttle, hits wall.
Yeah, and he definitely got some damage that time. We kind of saw the hood buckle a little bit. I think, honestly, because it's every time here in 3 and 4, I think maybe he's kind of driving 3 and 4 the same way that maybe you'd enter 1 and 2, and that I think is causing him a lot of heartache. So in 1, you see he's going to dive low, and you have a little bit more room to kind of run it up towards the wall in 1 and 2, as opposed to once we get down in turn 3, I think you'll see him try something similar and drive it up into the wall. It's been every lap for several laps now. Let's see.
And there they go again. Just, it's like clockwork. They just missed their braking mark or their lift point by like a full car length, and it's enough to sail them into the wall. As pit stop, Matt Haas has just indicated he's coming in.
He's currently down the back stretch heading into turn 3. We saw him kind of have a miscue entering pit road on stop number 1. We'll see how he handles it this time. No fast repair this time. And you see a much more cautious Matt Haas make it to pit road this time. All clean, all fenders intact. So we'll see how this nets him, though. Like I mentioned, I mean, he could maybe leapfrog from people here with this call, especially, you know, we see Kowser and Grace struggling as much as they are. They could easily be some bait for Haas.
This should close out his strategy and makes it clear for him, obviously, that it's the 2-stopper. Everybody else is in a different boat, possibly, where they're waiting to see what happens in about 5 minutes from now. See, can they make it? And no one's been really saving, mind you, in this.
Yeah, not a whole lot of saving. I mean, if anybody has been saving, it's honestly probably the guy you could argue maybe doesn't need to, Seven Hawthorne. I checked his lap times since his pit stop back on lap 36, and only on his out lap, or his first lap up to speed, I suppose is the probably better wording for that, did he turn a lap in the 29-second bracket. Ever since then, it's been kind of consistent high 30-second lap times. So it's, I mean, he may just not be really pushing it all that much. He's got 10 seconds back to Meager in the second spot now. Be interesting.
Matt, by the way, in that sequence, ended up having the full tire service, so not just a splash of fuel. He's trying to see if he can get up at least to 4th. That's going to be the tough thing. He needs to gain half a track in 13-14 laps to get back up to where the 27.91 are for a shot at a position. Speaking of which, they've been having some intense battling still where they have demolished the race cars in the process. Kowser slamming the walls, Grace not as hard.
These two are just not letting up at this point. I think they're just committed. I think, well, let's just see how much we can rough them up, and whoever comes out with this spot can get it. And honestly, you talked about how Haas, he's going to hope that he can get up to the 4th spot. This is going to help a lot because he's already about over a second faster than these guys on lap time. So never say never.
I don't think anyone said never say never, but I mean, they're treating the wall like it's a bouncy castle.
I'm really impressed that they're just, I mean, God, I can't imagine as much as they've been knocking it down. When we talk about steering damage, there's no way they're like,
it's definitely putting him down on straight speed yet again. Grace into the wall, and he's saying, you know what? I'm coming in this time. He's setting it aggressive for the pit entry. He might miss the code. He missed it again.
Yeah, we saw him miss it earlier. He's committing way too early. He needs to pull off, honestly, before you even make the turn for turn 3. I mean, this is just costing him even more. But Matt Haas loves to hear this.
Oh, and more contact, yeah.
And he's out of his fast repair, I believe, Justin.
Yeah, there he goes into the lane. Can he make the lane this time? No, he misses it again.
Oh my goodness, this has just gone from way bad to way worse for Grace. And there goes Haas. I mean, he didn't even need him to pit to do that.
That's unbelievable. Like 3 times in the race, he's missed the lane. And now he's saying, I'm going to stay out now.
I mean, what do you got to lose at this point, I guess? But I feel like...
Why
I mean,
pit then?
I guess, if anything, it would make more sense to just pit at this point. I mean, we talked about how Haas could hope to, get by some of these guys that are pitting. Oh, boy. I don't think he's got Knaus on the box.
Yeah, he definitely may need a spotter there.
Yeah, he needs old Earl and not the virtual one. I don't know if that's enough. I mean, this has just been brutal for Grace to try to make it to pit road. I mean, maybe if there's a lesson to be taken from this, it's from tracks that maybe are a little tough to get on pit road wise. Make a few reps in practice to try and get down there as clean as you can, make it pit road speed, because this is just, I mean, this really cost him.
So, okay, at this point, we're under 10 laps to go, mind you. That's how quickly things have now gone. We're coming around to 6 to go, in fact, for many of these drivers. And now it's the question for everybody else. Since we know Grace can make it on gas, since he said, I'm just going to stay out after all that, can anyone else make it on gas?
I would think it's safe to assume if he can, they probably all can. And for Haas, though, I will say, in 5th, running down Kowser for the 4th position right now. Under 2 seconds, the gap there. You talked about how he's going to try to get to 4th, and it looks like he'll be able to do just that. Definitely not going to have the time to make a run at the podium, but all in all, it would be a solid recovery for Matt. I mean, you see almost running his fastest lap of the race there just that last time around alone, so really pushing the limits of that 8 car. But it's working out pretty good for him. Gap still 10 seconds between our 2 leaders, however.
Under 5 laps to go, and Matt looking to use the freshies to be able to get as many points as possible. Kowser in the wall again. Here comes Matt Haas. More rotation for the corner exit. A chance to lunge right here this time.
Yeah, I would expect this won't be a super difficult battle. The 91, yeah, he has struggled in turn 3 so much. And the 8 will clear him this time around. So Matt Haas, great recovery from what could have been a really unfortunate run. I mean, obviously, you come here to win, but 4th is a pretty solid rebound from where it looked like maybe he would end up.
Just need to run away. Just run away, and that's all he really can do at this point. All those fresher tire advantages now on the 8 car. But the leader is coming around to 2 laps to go this time by. 7 on the way to win number 5.
Yeah, we saw how dominant old Rowdy Bush was in those M&M's colors all those years, and whether this is a throwback or not, it was kind of a throwback butt whooping out of this 18 tonight. 7 just start to finish, flag to flag, beautiful job all night. He's going to come around here and get the white flag. Tell you what though, Matt Haas is going to be really upset that this race doesn't have more time, because he is under 7 seconds behind the 3rd place runner of Divine. But I don't think, barring any big mistake, that he'll get there. Coming to the white flag, the money lap for Hawthorne.
White flag is out, final time around for 7 Hawthorne. He looks to keep it clean for one more circuit. Since the start, he's put on dominating pace. Now he's trying to make sure the car doesn't sputter. Got a little bit squirrely on the throttle through 1 and 2. Does he have enough gas to make it? I think he's out. 7 Hawthorne, he's running out of gas. Gets back on the throttle, gets the win.
Yeah, he had such a big gap over Meager that I don't think it really mattered. Might not have any extra fuel to light those Goodyears up, but played it perfect. I mean, honestly, Grace, we talked about how we were kind of surprised that he was going to be fine on gas after missing pit road, but evidently it's going to work out just fine for him. Oh, here he goes. He's oh, boy.
Celebration already on for 7 Hawthorne. After a bit of sputtering towards the end of the run there. And looks like he saved just enough to burn it on down.
Yeah, he saw some SVG style drifting there in 3 and 4 out of 7 there. Oh, this is a beautiful shot. Golden hour, you gotta love this.
So 7 Hawthorne gets to burn it on down with win number 5 in TKC this season. And that should put him in beautiful positionings now for the rest of this postseason. We'll take a quick step aside when we come back. Post-race results and interviews. You're watching coverage of TKC on Maconi Entertainment.
When you want to be the best, you can't settle for the rest. For anything on iRacing, there's just one name you need, Maconi.
With the launch of Maconi Entertainment and Maconi Competizone alongside Maconi Setup Shop, we now provide the best of the best in setups, paint schemes, coaching, broadcasting, and event organization.
With cars across all 4 license classes, we have what you need to hit the track with confidence. Grab a subscription and save money while going fast at MaconiSetupShop.com/subscriptions.
And remember, at Maconi Setup Shop, there are setups, but your victories.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back to tonight's coverage. TKC here at Maconi Entertainment. Justin Brent, Shane Mundy with you. Christian Hill, our producer this evening. Let's take a look at the results for tonight, the unofficial ones. 7 Hawthorne, Jacob Meagher, the only ones on the lead lap. Divine, 1 lap down in front of Matt Haas. Then Cowser and Grace, along with Selway, were the rest of your starters. Alex Wiggins did intend, apparently, at one point to run. Instead, he did not run. He is a DNS here tonight. That's what we talked about your race results here tonight from the place they call Too Tough to Tame. And in the end, 7 Hawthorne gets win number 5. 5 wins for 7 Hawthorne this season. 7, hello.
Hello.
Well, first things first, 7, how are you feeling after 5 wins now on the season and in 5 polls?
Feeling great. We had to save so much fuel there at the end. It was crazy. I thought I was going to lose my mind. We had to run half throttle for the last 30 laps, and never had to do anything like that at Darlington, but I had a blast. This M&M's Camry was bad fast from the start, and I think we led all but 1 lap, so couldn't be happy enough to get a win at Darlington. It's the one that got away last season, so I really wanted to get this one.
Yeah, I was going to ask, in terms of the fuel mileage, when did you realize, oh boy, I've got to save, I'm 2 laps short?
I realized it on the first run. I saw that we can go about 34 laps, around from 32 to 34. So during that first run, I knew on the second run that it would be a one-stopper if we save. So I came down pit road, and after, I'm not sure if on the broadcast if it went on board, but I stopped shifting in 3 and 4, and I was running half throttle down both straights, just trying to do everything I could to save enough fuel. And once the laps kept ticking by, I knew that I could make it, but I was just worried that a late race caution or something would happen. But I'm glad we saw the white flag and had enough fuel to slide it through 3 and 4 and do a crazy burnout.
On that note, this should get you in towards the next round, but Atlanta's next. Your thoughts on Atlanta?
I'm really glad I won Darlington. Atlanta is going to be chaotic. It just drives like a super speedway, but it's really still a mile and a half. It's very narrow, so it's going to be really crazy there. So I'm just really glad we don't have to worry about Atlanta, and we can move on to the next round.
Any shout out you'd like to give here tonight?
All my friends and family for watching and sticking with me and always cheering me on and keeping me up in the moments in this league where, you just feel like you can't do it anymore. So really happy for them, and yeah.
Congratulations on the run tonight, 7.
Thank you.
7 Hawthorne gets the win tonight. Does so by about half a lap over our next in line. Jacob Meagher is with Shane.
Jacob Meagher, you had a pretty cool White Lightning 48 scheme tonight. Came home in second. Was there anything that you maybe could have done early on? We obviously saw no cautions tonight. Was there anything you could have strategically planned out to knock off Hawthorne tonight?
I think it was mainly because, well, funny enough, I ran the White Lightning scheme, and there was a bunch of thunderstorms around me, so it was pretty much just perfectly set up. Well, I mainly didn't qualify mainly just to see if the thunderstorms would pass by the time we went green, and I believe that really did hurt me since I figured out the car around lap 5, but I didn't want to wreck anybody by passing them, so I just took my time. Think if I qualified and then not have to worry about getting held up back there, I'm not mad at anybody, but just feel like that really would have been a huge difference on at least having a chance to get the win. But congrats, 7. Bro just whipped our butts. So, I'll at least take the pride in the only one that led a lap other than him.
Was there any concerns with your 48 car about fuel? We saw, 7 was talking to us about maybe being concerned he wouldn't make it to the end. Was there any point you were concerned about that, or were you pretty confident that you'd make it to the checkered?
I made it by less than half a lap, so I didn't have any worries since it said I was going to run out entering turn 1. So, I was latest I pitted, so I I was pretty confident on my fuel.
All right, Jacob. Well, congrats on a great run. Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to tonight?
I mean, really anybody, because I had a lot of fun driving this thing. Not really the biggest fan of the next gen, but I actually had a lot of fun, mainly because I really like Darlington. So I'll see if I can make next week. It's Daytona, right?
We'll be at Atlanta. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'll make sure to try and get myself in there. Wait and see, though.
Gonna be chaotic, Jacob. Well, thank you for your time. Congrats on a great run tonight.
Thank you.
Once again, that's Jacob Meeker coming away in second. Brandon Devine ended up getting third, first lap down. Brandon, what's kind of going through your mind after that one?
Well, I wasn't expecting the one-stop strategy to work, but as soon as I started saving fuel and I waited on the others to make a mistake, I was, in the end, the guy who took advantage of that. And, you know, I thought our throwback was also pretty cool. I couldn't find the livery I was looking for, so the one I'm running, it's close enough, but...
Overall, though, for a race like this tonight, what was kind of the most difficult thing for you and why?
Definitely the fact that this track is too tough to tame. The racing line changed over time as soon as the marbles started to build up, but it was nothing that we couldn't handle, and the number 57 Toyota just kept pushing, and I kept my car in one piece, and everybody else around me made mistakes, took advantage of it, came home third. But sometimes you just got to pick up what's left. I know it's the little spot on the podium, but at the end of the day, it's still on the podium. So there's that.
Your thoughts on Atlanta next time out?
Well, last time in Atlanta, we got dumped for the win. So looking to get revenge on that and further cement my chances in the playoffs. Right now we're running about like 5th place. We're in striking distance for the top 4, so looking to keep on pushing.
Any show that you like to give here tonight?
My family's going to South Carolina this week to see my brother graduate from the Marine Corps, so shout out to Danny on completing boot camp and completing the Crucible in one piece.
Once again, congratulations on the run and congratulations to your family.
Thank you very much.
Brandon Devine coming away in third tonight. I'd like to thank him and the rest of the top 3 for taking the time to speak with us during post-race coverage here on Maconi Entertainment. What are your final thoughts on this one, Shane, where it was a bit of a slow burner for much of the way and a fuel mileage race to boot?
I mean, start to finish, talked about it, how 7 Hawthorne, he started up top, ended on top. Great run for them tonight. He mentioned how he was a little worried about fuel there. We saw it turn into a bit of a fuel strategy race. But overall, I don't think anybody ended up running out of gas. We only had one guy pit on a bit on a different cycle from everybody else, that being Matt Haas, who was able to finish in 4th. Probably a little disappointed that it didn't go a little longer, as he was only about 5.6 seconds away from getting that podium spot away from Brandon Devine, who we just spoke to. But we saw a lot of guys struggle with, the fence here. We mentioned that was going to be a factor. But overall, 7 Hawthorne took him to school tonight, and I'm sure that they'll probably think a bit about the things they saw him do and maybe try to apply it to how they approach this track in the future.
So on that note, it's time to get ready to say goodbye here. I'd like to once again thank the presenting partners for tonight. That includes Maconi Sub Shop, but also Extreme Zone, Endurance Karting, and Red Mist Podcast for their support in this series and all TKC National Series competition. As mentioned, the next race for the series is at Atlanta. The next time we'll be on the air for this series, so we head to Watkins Glen in the next round. Once again, Atlanta takes place next week, August the 5th, 8 p.m. Eastern is the start time, but we will be on for the next broadcast on the 12th from the Glen. Thanks once again for the Touring Kart Championship for having us on the air for tonight and with them on the air. Calling the action tonight, myself, Justin Prince, alongside the booth tonight, Shane Mundy. Christian Hill was our producer. Thanks as well to our viewers for watching tonight's action, and we hope you stay tuned to our social media pages for our next race. Thanks to the entire staff for bringing this racing to you. This has been a production of Maconi Entertainment. We'll see you next time.
When you want to be the best, you can't settle for the rest. For anything on iRacing, there's just one name you need, Maconi.
With the launch of Maconi Entertainment and Maconi Competizone alongside Maconi Setup Shop, we now provide the best of the best in setups, paint schemes, coaching, broadcasting, and event organization.
With cars across all 4 license classes, we have what you need to hit the track with confidence. Grab a subscription and save money while going fast at MaconiSetupShop.com/subscriptions.
And remember, at Maconi Setup Shop, there are setups, but your victories.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.